In Brazil, the Senate approved a bill that promotes equal pay for women and men doing the same job or exercising the same functions. In Turkey, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro arrived to participate in his counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan's inauguration on June the 3rd. In South Africa, senior officials from over 1,000 countries held talks with the BRICS bloc to strengthen cooperation ties. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We give you the news. Stay with us. In Panama on Friday, the Electoral Commission confirmed that everything is ready for the primary elections of the political parties Realizando Metas and Revolucionario Democrático. The electoral magistrate Luis Guerra explained that Realizando Metas will be the first to carry out the internal process to elect the candidates to the presidency of the Republic on June the 4th. In the meantime, in the case of primaries of the Democratic Revolutionary Party will be held next June the 11th. Guerra notes that these elections will have international observers, among them the Organization of American States and the Inter-American Union of Electoral Organization. Panama's Public Prosecutor's Office on Thursday asked the justice system for a maximum sentence of 12 years in prison for former President Ricardo Martinelli accused of money laundering. The prosecutors asked for the same sentence for 12 others co-defendants on the 8th date of the trial against the right-wing ex-president who governed Panama between 2009 and 2014. The trial, known as the New Businesses, is one of several proceedings against the former president for the possible corruption during his term. On Friday, the ambassador of the European Union in Brazil, Ignacio Ibáñez, affirmed that Mercosur and the European Union expects to move forward with a free trade agreement. The members of Mercosur, Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay, and the European Union resumed negotiations in recent months to close the free trade agreement between the two blocs that was concluded at the technical level in 2019. Ibáñez assured that Mercosur wants to reopen some issues that seems to have been agreed, but approval has not yet been presented. This Friday, the Brazilian Senate approved a bill that promotes equal pay for women and men doing the same job or exercising the same functions, one of President Lula da Silva's campaign's promises. The text was presented by the government in March, approved by the Chamber of Deputies on a month ago, and will now be sent to President Lula for its enactment. According to the study conducted by the IDARO's consulting firm, women earn around 20% less than men in Brazil for the same education profile, age, and occupation category. In addition, the bill also states that in case of discrimination based on gender, race, or ethnicity, the employer must compensate employees for the differences in salary due and 10 times the value of the new salary. In Brazil, Lula da Silva's government prevents the return of Jair Bolsonaro's ministerial model. Parliament waited until the last day to vote on the presidential decree that reconfigured the government structure. The details in the following report by Andre Vieira and Sebastián Soto.
E de carreira individual está presente essa atual legislatura.
Since he took office exactly 6 months ago, the Senate approved by 51 to 19 to maintain the model of ministries created by the president by means of a provisional measure that will lose its validity on June 1st.
It is important that the government can do it the way it was done, without increasing costs, without creating new quotas. It is in fact an administrative reorganization that goes in accordance with our commitments to the Brazilian people.
The tight time for the vote was triggered by the Chamber of Deputies. The House of Deputies, mostly made up of right-wingers, was the only legislative house to blackmail the government to free out money for parliamentary amendments. The Legislative House only approved on Wednesday by 337 to 125 votes to maintain the current ministerial structure after the release of $340 million by the National Executive for actions of the congressmen in their bases. For the deputy leader of the government in the Chamber of Deputies, the approval of the provisional measure guarantees the implementation of the policies elected with President Lula.
There are important ministries like the Ministry of Agrarian Development, for example, which was extinguished by Bolsonaro. We came back and created the Ministry of Indigenous People. We strengthened the Ministry of Environment. We practically recreated the Ministry of Labor and Employment, which are fundamental ministries. The Ministry of Women, the Ministry to Combat Racism. So I believe that President Lula is fulfilling his government agenda and his commitments. I think it was a spectacular victory.
The current 37 ministers are maintained, but the Chamber of Deputies edited the provisional measure that reconfigured them and at the same time made important sectors fragile. For example, it removed the National Water Resources policy from the Ministry of Environment and the demarcation of indigenous lands from the unprecedented Ministry of Indigenous People, while reviewing the attribution of other ministries. The popular movement stressed the importance of maintaining the current government structure, but questioned the attitude of the Congress, which until last year received public money without transparency, a secret budget in exchange for support for the government of former President Jair Bolsonaro.
It is important because it will allow the government to start working, but we are very concerned about the emptying of some ministry and the attempt to shape mainly the policies that are fundamental for the working people, such as the agrarian reform, the indigenous issues. Today we are facing the issue of the temporary measure that reorganized the program, My House, My Life, and that there were many problems that have now been highlighted, resolved with amendments, but there is a permanent tension because the National Congress is still not working. It is not favorable to the government, favorable for the needs of the Brazilian people to have access to land, to food, to work, to housing.
Lula's government ends today strengthened, but will have to dialogue until 2026, the last year of his administration, with the most conservative Congress since the end of the civil-military dictatorship in 1985.
André Vieira e Sebastião Soto, teleSUR, Brasil.
Let's take a very short break now, but remember, you can now follow us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. In France, employees gather outside the headquarters of rival group of FTS NCF to protest on Friday as a meeting is held to discuss the future of the company. Around 100 employees gather outside the rival group's headquarters in Saint-Cloud, north of Paris. The subsidiary of the state-owned rival group is threatened by an investigation by Brussels, which suspects it of its having risen illegal aid, which will automatically lead to its bankruptcy. On May 2023, railway workers broke into the European Commission as part of their ongoing campaign to say the freedom operations of FTS NFC. On Friday, several dozen protesters opposed to pension reform gathered in the streets of Village-Grons in southern France near the civilian security year base that President Emmanuel Macron's visit. Protesters mobilized in rejection of Emmanuel Macron's administration's management and to support workers' unions' demand to avoid the pension reform law. French unions are calling for a fresh national day of actions to protest against the government's controversial pension reform on Tuesday, June the 6th. French President Macron's personal ratings are near their lowest level on record for his handling of pension reform protests that latest polls show. The severe drought currently affecting Spain has led to a reduction in the output of agricultural products and increase in food prices. According to data released by the Ministry for Ecological Transition and the Demographic Challenge, the country's reservoirs, which stored rainwater for use in rain months, were at just 47.5% of their capacity during the final week. During the final week of May, down sliding for 47.7% during the previous week. This situation has caused the prices of vegetables and beans in countries increased by 19% in the first quarter of 2023, and the overall prices of food increased by 15.7% in 2022, hitting the record high since January 1994.
Now the prices of fruits and vegetables have increased by 15 to 20% on average compared with the same period last year. People need fruits and vegetables, but sometimes they don't have enough money to buy those of higher quality. On the one hand, the price of agricultural products rises partially due to the drought, which is also the most important reason because it directly leads to declining output. When the demand in the market exceeds the supply, the price rises. On the other hand, the increase of production costs is also affected by the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, because the price of major raw materials such as fertilizer, fuel, and energy have more than doubled.
Ukraine carried out several attacks on Russian territory on Friday. For the first time, authorities in Belgorod report casualties. According to Belgorod Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov, a chilling attack injured 4 people in Belgorod, and preliminary informs indicate a drone crash and sparked a fire at a refinery further south. Gladkov also added that 8 apartment buildings, 4 homes, schools, and 2 administrative buildings were damaged during the shelling in Shebekino, a village in the border region of Belgorod. As Italians mark their national day to celebrate the 77th anniversary of the establishment of the Republic on Friday, some took to the streets to protest against the conflict in Ukraine.
Peace, one needs to find an agreement. With this point of view, we believe that instead our government, subjected to NATO, continues to fuel the conflict, sending weapons, increasing the military budget, and not wanting in any way to reach an agreement.
After yesterday's shameful deliberation of the European Parliament that wants to allocate public funding for use of weapons, being here means reiterating the application of the Constitution that Italy rejects war.
On Friday, China urged the U.S. to stop pushing forwards and immediately revoke the trade agreement it signed Thursday with the self-ruled island of Taiwan. Chinese Prime Minister spokesperson Mao Ning condemned the deal and said China once again urged the U.S. to abide by the One China principle and the Three Joint Communique and to stop sending the wrong signals to Taiwan's independence separatist forces, or else they will be accountable for all ensuing consequences. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and join our Latin American alternative broadcast. From financial break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Friday, President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, arrived in Turkey to participate in the inauguration of his counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who in June the 3rd will take office as president of a period of 5 years. Previously, President Maduro congratulated Erdogan on behalf of all the Venezuelan people for being re-elected in an electoral triumph declared official by the Supreme Electoral Council on June the 1st. President Erdogan obtained 52.18% of the votes, while opposition leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu obtained 47.82%. Latin American leader emphasized that Erdogan's victories consolidates the path of complementary relations that his nations maintain. At least 20 heads of state and 45 ministers will participate in Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's inauguration in Ankara on June the 3rd. According to a source in the Turkish leader administrative office, among the leaders are the President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, and Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg will also arrive in Turkey to take part in the ceremony. State Duma speakers Vyacheslav Volodin will represent Russia at the ceremony. On Saturday, the Turkish leader plans an extensive program, including a visit to the mausoleum of the Republic's founder, Kemal Atatürk. On June the 1st, Turkish Central Electoral Committee published the final results of the second round of the May 28th elections, which gave Erdogan's victory with 52.18% of the votes, while his rival leader won 47.82%. On Friday, senior officials from over 1,000 countries were in talks on closer links with BRICS blocs as it met on deepen ties. Cuba attends for the first time at a meeting of this coalition of countries made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. On this occasion, it does as president of the G77 group plus China. One of the main objectives of this event is to consolidate dialogue and cooperation among the countries of the South in order to face the many common challenges in the international fight.
He also spoke about and supported the notion of really looking at how we can transform international development finance institutions and have a more representative voice for the developing world. How we can change the quota within the IMF, etc., to be more fair, the representation in governance structures, access to financing, which is not at a cost that leads to debt, and all those issues. We also agreed that one of the key purposes of BRICS that we'll try to encourage is really fostering dialogue as a pathway to peace and development. We believe the world needs to talk much more, even when there are troubling problems, that we could resolve these through dialogue and close interaction.
In this context, the new Development Bank's president, Dilma Rousseff, reaffirmed that the institution is ready to embrace more member states to become more representative.
The new Development Bank has a broader view and is willing to embrace all our counterparts in the world. It emerged as a platform supported by major economies from different continents. They represent Latin America, Asia, and Africa. We have already started the process to expand membership. We want to have more countries with us. In this sense, BRICS becomes a representative named not only of the initial 5 countries, but of all countries that will join us. We will build a platform committed to development, financing infrastructure, and fighting against climate change. The new Development Bank supports the member countries to fulfill their commitments.
The Damascus National Museum on Friday hosted an exhibition of painting by Syrian and Palestinian artists in honor of El Libertador Simón Bolívar and the Venezuelan leader Hugo Chavez. The exhibition is organized by the Venezuelan Embassy and is part of the second national painting competition, which is held in homage to those two history leaders considered here as a symbol of the struggle and the defense of the right of the people. According to the Syrian Minister of Culture, Labana Mushoyin, the paintings highlighted the indelible traces left by these two eternal figures in the history of the struggle to free themselves from the yoke of colonialism and regain the rights and sovereignty of their people. We have come to the end of this brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also use us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.